Welcome to the Data Product Management in Action podcast, created and executive produced by me, Scott Hirleman, and brought to you by Soda, your best friend in data quality and contracts tooling. We created this podcast to serve as a place for actual practitioners bringing product management practices to data, whether that is to AI and ML, data products, platforms, or everything else in data, right? And it's to dig into the nitty-gritty of product management in data, but in fun and dynamic conversations. It's not just lift and shift from software product management. We have a great set of hosts for you that are also practitioners, so they can really get into those specifics and dive deep and get you the information you want to know rather than just high level, here is what a data product is. This is about cutting through the noise of data product management to drive towards actionable insights, hence the actual podcast name, Data Product Management in Action. So sit back and enjoy another awesome conversation.
Hey everyone, I'm Amritha. Welcome back to Data Product Management in Action. It's a practitioner's podcast. Today we have a special guest, Sagar Nikam. Welcome, Sagar. He's the head of product of AI and data at CK Delta. I'll let Sagar share more about his experience.
Thank you, Amritha. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. So, my journey to data product management was not straightforward, right? I started my career into reporting and analytics, working in finance and banking industry, focusing on building report, MI for the management, which helped them to taking decision. But during that course, I realized that just building the report, it's not that easy, as in it's not directly adding that much value to the business. And also the process of just getting a requirement and then start playing around data and building it, it's also complex, right? So that's when I started exploring more. I got more into agile project management, product management, got to learn more about how the projects are being managed. And that's kind of got me into thinking about how I can make the process of building this report or building this record solution more scalable, reusable, where I started thinking and applying that product mindset. And that's how I transitioned into data product management. So I think I started acting as a data product management way before I actually got the title. But that kind of helped me to transition and get into this type of role. Currently, I'm at CK Delta. I lead the portfolio of products what we have. Each product has AI, machine learning elements focusing on customer demand profiling, preventive maintenance, optimization, and all that type of thing. I'm really excited to be here and share my experience on this.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sagar. That's a very good organic and linear transition that you have had. I think one of the key things that I noticed, and as I transitioned from, I started off as an engineer and transitioned into product management and then data product management. It was very less known about what is data product management. How do you balance between data, customer experience, some of those things. So from your experience, how have you dealt with this? Where have you seen that data teams need to better align with product management? Or what has worked for you where you said, okay, here is the problems that I'm seeing, here is the solutions, but how do you balance with data as well as, building the solution for the customers?
No, yeah, I think that it's still a bit of a challenge in the industry because if there is a proper product team, and in many organizations, if you're working in internal data teams, right, there might be not a product folks working with you. So there is always a struggle to assign or have that person who owns the overall solution and overall product. And that kind of create that gaps where there is no one thinking about the actual solution and the business problem we are trying to solve. Everyone is trying to jump and thinking or applying their own expertise in building that solution as best as possible. I think that's where this product management rule is very key, right? There has to be a person who take a step back. So rather than it being a service oriented team who just work on the request or just delivering more features to a product, a person who take a step back and thinks, is it really required? So generally a framework I try to see is checking the value. Is it going to add value to customers' life? Uh, Is it adaptable? Will customer really adapt it? And is it feasible? Do my data scientist and technical team think it's feasible to develop that type of product? If all three boxes are yes, 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 that's where we can think of making it as a data product. Because not everything you build as a team has to be a data product. There could be few one-off solution you build. There could be some RCA root cause analysis you are doing or some ad hoc analytics you are doing. So that's where this is the responsibility or very important role where you have to make sure that the solution you're building is creating impact to the business.
That's very nicely said. See, one of the things that I have also noticed, similar to what you said, is like someone being able to think end to end, right? And I have also seen something very related to this different organization structure. What I mean by that is there are some scenarios where there is a product team and who is working with the engineers and data scientists to build the particular data pipelines and all that data product in itself, right? And there is another model where you have this business teams, there is product management, and then there is engineering teams. Which have you what are have you come across all of these models, or what is your take? What has worked?
Yeah. So I have kind of worked in both the environments. So I have been in the team where the product management was represented by business team and been in the team where product manager was like someone from data team. It could be a data manager or data technical leads, or could be a data product manager from technical team. And like as far as they are doing their job to making sure the business problem is understood, identified, and solved, both things work. But my personal preference will be having someone closer to business. So if it's a person who understands the business, have worked in the business, and have good of business knowledge, and even it's okay to have less of a data and say machine learning knowledge, I think that works really well because you can understand the business. Many times, also there is another issue with if we keep creating a complex data and ML model is adoption, right? There is still a lack of like understanding of how this model works, right? So kind of one of the important role of DPM is how we translate that complex machine learning and AI models and how we explain it to business. And that's where if we have someone from business who can make them realize or use the lingo of business to make them aware how things work, that sometimes helps as well. But at no point I'm saying that if it's from data, they can't do it. It just gets a bit easier. But if they're doing the role, it works well.
That's great. See, as we discussed, like what are the organizational structures and how you transitioned into product management. One of the key things that I keep wondering is what what is the data product? I keep getting asked this as well, and I also keep wondering what is the data products. And I think the best way that I have been able to conceptualize this is, okay, let's say you build a data pipeline. Great. What would be the business value that's attached to that? Why would we build something? And similarly, if you're building reporting probably, in my opinion, is the most straightforward way to tie it to business value. I would love to hear from you. How do you think about this?
No, I think that is still a big question in industry. What exactly is data product? Rather than like question, we are considering everything around data is data product, right? Uh, there are people who just think reporting and dashboard is data product. People who think if you're building AI or ML model, then only it's a data product. People think if you are selling or using a raw data as a product, then that data as a product, right? Everything could be, or there is also like data platform manager as well. Like if you have managing data platform for orchestration, data engineering, that's a data product. I think at the end, as you're correctly saying, right, it's the solution that adds value to the business that solve a real customer's problem that is being used continuously. It's not a one-time thing. So wherever there is a foundation layer of data, which is providing that additional value from your intuition-driven decision making or from using your just random knowledge or industry expertise that gives you that edge over your general ways of doing your business. That's a data product. So it could be any of this. It could be a combination of this as well, right? But I think that's how I will say. I know it's still a bit complex definition, but at the end, it's like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's bit of complex, I think, because industry is also evolving so much. Then today, any product management, and product management about solving any particular problem involves data. So we call that as data product management, or do we go down to the roots to say that anything you're dealing with a platform and a data pipeline and the reporting, the boundaries are there. So I think that's it's okay not to know that, because I think we are comfortable with evolution and change, and which is a great place, in my opinion, to be. Yeah. Switching gears, I also wanted to understand from your experience about what kind of products has worked, or let's say now with AI, right? Like, what are the kind of product problems or solutions that you are seeing, solving in this particular space? And also, I want to understand, like some of our listeners who are, let's say, they are struggling with tying to the business value. If there is some example that you want to share, here is how you couldn't figure out, or something you figured out, something that can help our listeners to understand how should they take steps in their day to day.
Yeah, sure. I think all the data products generally fall into some broader buckets, right? There could be data, like there could be reports or dashboards that just giving you more information, more descriptive information about your business, right? Or you're tying to outcome. It could be how your product is increasing the efficiency of your team, or reducing the cost, or is it generating additional revenue, or is it generating a profit? Is it increasing your top line, right? If it falls into some of that bucket, generally that works well because you're directly seeing the end output, right? But tying to that particular bucket, it gets challenging, right? So let's take example from my product space, right? So I work very closely with utility businesses, right? So a customer could come to me and say, can you build an AI model which could tell me, or which could predict when my particular asset will fail, right? So that's a point. It's a good enough, clear requirement for me that they want a model which will predict the maintenance, or which will predict the failure of the asset. So I can go with my technical team and start building it, right? But I think this is where we need to stop and ask, okay, you're asking me to directly build a model. Ideally, that's a red flag for me. You don't think solution, you ask question, or you tell me your problem and let me decide what the best solution could be with my team, right? So I could ask them and get more deep down. I know there are lots of framework like doing ask it 5 whys or getting more into. But one of my favorite is like it's from that outcome driven innovation, right? Jobs to be done, right? It's trying to understand what exactly job customers trying to follow or trying to achieve, right? I think in that book they say that the job is a higher purpose than the actual solution or product. So if we can identify that purpose, why they want to do something, or what exactly they want to achieve, that solves everything for data team, right? So coming back to our example, so they want to predict when the asset fails. Okay, so okay, I get get into brainstorming, ask them question, maybe shadow some business user, try to understand how they use current solution, what type of problem they are facing. So now I know they want to predict the failure so they can avoid any downtime on their business or on their asset, say to avoid any regulatory penalty or to avoid any other types of financial penalty, right? So outcome is financial penalty. That's good. So that's check mark. I can try to figure out what that quantified amount could be. I could also look into the resourcing and other elements required into managing that, right? Another thing is understood that they need to reduce the downtime. So that means whenever the resource fail or the asset fails or it's possible that it will fail, they should have the alert that they can go and take some action. Okay. So rather than building an AI model, putting it to a dashboard, now I know dashboard could work, but I think the alert system is more important. So if I put alerts in a dashboard, it will still be more proactive, more reactive rather than proactive, right? Someone need to log in and see it. So can I add a AI layer on top, right? Can I make it AI understand the data and customize the recommendation or customize the alert and it automatically sends to the user, right? So how a single line business problem we can convert it into a solution end to end. Plus now we know we want to add an AI layer because it makes sense, not just because we want to add AI element into that, right? So we converted that. I want to identify the asset failure too. I want to reduce the downtime and avoid financial penalty. So if we bring this kind of a product mindset into our day-to-day life, I think it's make really easier. And because now we are talking business language, we are talking, okay, with this dashboard or with this alert, you are reducing X amount of penalty. They get excited. They feel emotionally connected to the solution rather than I'm coming saying that I created this model which has 95% confidence, which use this number of data set, which sometimes for business, it's too complex to adopt.
I really love what you said. There are a couple of things that stood out to me, and I'm going to highlight those. Are one, trying to innovate on behalf of customer, which is what truly you highlighted, right? Going back to the basics of understanding what is the job the customer trying to do, rather than prescribing and going with a solution mindset, going with the open mind of let's try to understand all your context and let me help come up with the best solution that can help you today, that can help you tomorrow. That's where you also mentioned about alerts. Helping tomorrow is like, how can I help you get predictably, manage your resources? So that's sort of the things that I really appreciate. And I think something that I would encourage product leaders to adapt as they transition and grow into product management. Um, One of the other things that I was wondering is how do you define success for AI products? And I know in here what you said about trying to, tie it to financial metrics. That's great but one of the things that I'm observing or in the industry is oftentimes you tie to, like, say, if you're investing in some sort of Gen AI features, tying it to efficiency is great, but efficiency is hard to quantify, measure, and keep up with it. Like, for example, if you say that I'm going to generate certain text or I'm going to generate certain data sets in minutes for you. And yes, so for sure, you can save that from hours to minutes in an approximation or in in that sort of a format. But it's really hard to keep tab of, is the data scientist or is the user really spending an hour? And, are they spending 10 minutes here, 10 minutes doing something else, that sort of. So there's always a challenge. And that's something that at least I'm seeing where it's hard to tie to what kind of metrics can I tie this Gen AI features. Have you come across anything in the space that you're in?
No, I think that was like very well pointed by you, right? At least for now, majority of AI or especially Gen AI use cases are getting tied to efficiency, right? How we are increasing productivity of your employees, automating the automating the task, the repetitive task, and giving your employees more time back, right? So I think there are different ways of doing that, right? I completely get your point. It's really hard to quantify that, right? We can go with lots of assumption. Like we can go with user feedback. They are saying, okay, we spent 5 hours with this, it will be 2 hours and ABC, right? What we generally do is in the phase where we are exploring or doing still like a feasibility and business analysis of that, we try to shadow the business user to try to understand how much efforts they're actually putting in, right? So that kind of give us some rough understanding of actual efficiency gain, what we can achieve by that. But on top of that, there is also a layer of accuracy of our Gen AI model, right? If human is doing something, there is a particular sort of accuracy. If you're using Gen AI, there will be a particular level of accuracy. So we have one of our AI agent product which helps to automate your processes, right? It could classify or triage your business request and then summarize, create auto reply, or create a kind of create tickets on behalf of the user. So that we have seen it is kind of automating the end-to-end processes for few things, right? The challenge in this is one thing what we are trying to see is how we can achieve the results which are better than the human results, right? Because no way we can promise that AI will be 100% accurate, at least for this point. In future, it might change. So what we try to do, we did a like a demo run of a small subset of the requests, given it to the users to manually tag them or classify them, given it to the model to tag them, and then we compare the result. So human was 70% and model was 85%. So that's how we proved, okay, the model is successful because it's improving on behalf of your current processes. So that kind of gave us additional point. Uh, Another thing, the what we talked about, the efficiency in terms of number of hours saved. Earlier, you used to take, say, 1 hour to do that. We are doing it couple of seconds. And I think the important one is more on adoption of this solution, right? We can build the best AI solution with all the latest LLM and GenAI model, but if the user don't use it, there is no use, because it's at the end it's kind of helping you to do your job better or in a different way. So it has to be you who is willing to adapt to it, right? And I think what I learned in my career so far, in business, there is a huge fear of unknown, right? When we talk about AI, LLM, or even in terms of machine learning model, it's so complex for business users who are not into day-to-day of data. They find it like a black box of really complex mathematics. And because they can't understand, trust it, they don't adopt it, because they start getting fear about, if I adopt it, if something fails, I won't be able to control it, right? So that journey of adoption, it's more important than everything else. Your model could be a bit less accurate, but how you're building your user on that journey where they feel confident, they feel emotionally that, okay, this is my product, this is my companion who is going to help me to improve my day to day, rather than some external takey data team bringing a new box and that could replace me in future. Like, to avoid that fear, that's why, like, I generally tend to, at least kind of all my data product, I focus more on adoption. If adoption is more, if people are using it, it's helping, and they're using it as a decision support system into their day-to-day life, I think that's success for me. The quantified business impact could be small or big based on actual solution we're doing. But if no one is using it, whatever new LLM you use, it's of no use.
Yeah. I really like that piece because you touched one of the key situations or downsides that I have seen, at least, and whether even working with internal clients as well as working with external customers. Uh, Oftentimes we prioritize certain problem spaces, thinking that there will be adoption. But once you build, even though let's say you do everything right, by you understand the problem, you build the right solution, you won't get the right kind of adoption, especially because probably the business thing didn't think about what are the processes they had to build. Once they have this new data, it's still a concept, but they haven't thought through the entire SOP or entire process that they're going to change once, let's say, they have it. So how have you um, worked with your, let's say, customers to think ahead of solutions? That's one. And also the flip of it, let's say when during definition, there are oftentimes there is no clear financial impact or clear insight into what is the business impact, but you need to work with your teams to advocate that this is a problem that we need to solve and build. So how have you done both or either of these? If you have any examples, I would love to hear that. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's a great question, and I think everyone who is into this industry aware of this particular problem, right? And on the both side, right? Okay, so let's start with internal side of it. On our side, from the data team's perspective, I think the biggest unknown of everything, like even not thinking about the actual adoption by the user, right? The actual data, what we require to build those models, right? Even if it's LLM or our traditional ML models. If if we have, it's not like if we have all the data, and more the data, the better the data, right? It's always helped to have more data, but there is also a big concept of data quality, right? If it's poor, everything goes in different ways and you have to put lots of time into that, right? So one is data, which is a big uncertainty. If you already have access to the data, you still have idea, but there could be some cases where you are relying on external data sets to enrich your model and you don't know how that works or what quality that could be. So that's something is, again, a big unknown when building a data product. Another big unknown is, I think, the all the data products, AI and ML especially, there is a big research component and uncertainty involved, right? At the start of it, we can't define what the model accuracy could be, right? We could take a good, educated, calculated guess that it could be 50, 60, 70%, but it's really hard to give a number, right? I had multiple discussion and argument with my tech lead that I need to give customer a percentage. Can we come up with something? Can we brainstorm something? But always there is a huge struggle. And that's kind of a really unique situation which we need to deal with. That I don't have a confident number from team, but I still need to communicate, right? So that's, I think, one of the bigger unknown. And third is it's really hard to define the timeline on the development because of this research base. I can't say that I will take 10 sprint and you will have 70% accurate model, right? It could, I could spend 4 weeks just cleaning the data quality, or I could need to do like 2, 3 sprint of just research to make sure that I have the solution. So all this uncertainty are like really need to deal with internally as well. The best way to deal with it is working really closely with a technical team, at least having a tech lead in confidence and having all the information in the hand. Even if you don't have answer to it, you should have all the information so you can make sure how you are communicating it to the customer, right? And on that side, right? So I think that's again where the communication plays a good role. So I generally tend to prefer it at least having a lead or sponsor, someone. Sponsor could be sometimes really higher level, or maybe a project lead or a business lead on this discussion end to end, right? Not to say getting involved into every tiny like a technical discussion, but aware of all the uncertainty, aware that what all data sets we are going to look out external, aware about how complex is it to understand the model accuracy, and then understanding about a timestamp, right? Because when we are dealing with business or end user, they always expect like give me a release date when you will release it. And it's really hard to do that in this space. So that's where it's like, I think Agile also really helps when we get into that iterative development, right? And so what I tend to do generally is work with the business, try to understand is what is the impact of not having 100% accurate model, right? So that gives me, okay, because we know it won't be 100%, at least for now, right? Okay, so then if we make you say 50% accurate, what will be the impact? 60% accurate. To try to quantify the negative impact of not having that additional accuracy, what you're looking for, right? So that also helps to define the baseline or define the MVP. Okay, so with all this effort, if I can't achieve more than 60%, I think my current ways are still better. So this might not be a good solution right now. Or we need to take that business decision. Do we need to put more time on sponsorship, right? So this is how I tend to work with business to make them aware that, okay, if you are improving more than your current process, I think it's still a good solution. On internal side, with all the uncertainty, I tend to time box as much as possible, right? So if my team said we need to go out in the market and look for data set, okay, can we time box it to one sprint? And let's see what happens at the end of that. And then based on what are we achieving that one sprint, we take the decision. Okay, it's a good enough information we have, or do we need to go more? Saying the time boxing the research or data processing. If at the end of the time box, do we think it's good enough? We are still on track to deliver it, or do we need to go back to customer and communicate? We need to change the timeline. So it's kind of a dance going from here and there, and then communicating that information. But it helps. I think Agile helps in that way, and being clear and honest about lots of things also helps a lot. I think in at least AI and ML projects, you have to be clear and upfront with the customer, whatever it is. There is an education piece that you need to educate them how this ML model works, because there could be a model which could improve eventually with new data and new like a feedback loop, what we have established to it. But it's all about making them aware how things work.
How have you dealt with experimentation? And is there something that you, like in scenarios where you said about, like, it could take 10 sprints versus it could take 15? We don't know how quickly we can help get the reliable, and what is that reliable accuracy, or the something that we are comfortable with, right? And what is the trade-offs that we will think of? So have you seen the practice of, at least in the market that you're in, like doing more experimentation? If yes, how have you guys thought about like short-term experimentation versus long-term, and that sort of mental model?
Yeah, I think in experimentation way is more about in building the product. We tend to go is like, can we build MVP? Or if we are building some new AI model for the first time for some new industry, Can we try to do a POC? Can we try to do on a smaller subset of a business unit or smaller business problem? Can we drill down the business problem as small as we can achieve into 3 or 4 sprints, right? And try to see if that's successful, then getting into the next level, right? We tend to do a POC on a business problem end to end. Now we are also trying to experiment. Can we do a POC on just model? Just try to play around on the data just to see if that modeling is feasible. Then try to build other component on that to build a POC for customer. So those type of things helps is POC or MVP for experimentation.
Okay, got it. Um, Switching gears a bit on, I want to go back to how you came into the industry and what helped. Like, at least for me, right? I came from a very supply chain background and more of business processes and that kind of product management, or, and coming into data product management, it definitely felt very, even being an engineer, right? It was sort of a very lonely field, not knowing what is product management here, what kind of product am I going to build. I don't know how it was for you. What helped you? If you had something similar, if not, then I just want to know what was the mindset then, what helped you, how did you drive support or community, I don't know, whatever worked. Do you want to share something along those lines?
Yeah, sure. But I think, to be honest, that's really a good question, right? I think it's not easy to be in this position, right? Because you're kind of intersection of really smart technical team who could be like a best mathematician, physician who are working on like a machine learning model. And you're working with the business who are expert into their own industry and their own business. And you're sitting in between. You're neither expert in data, neither expert in business. Then you are bridging that gap. But I completely get your point. It felt lonely. It felt like, am I good enough to bridge that gap? I don't know best about dashboarding and UI UX. I don't know best about AI ML. I don't know best about data engineering. I don't know best about the business as well. Still, how I can do that. I think that's fun, to be honest. I felt it's more empowering because I know everything from everyone, not necessarily in detail, but good enough that I can bridge that gap and create that new solution from that, right? So I enjoyed it. I think there are lots of skills which help. One is communication, how we can communicate with each other, right? You need to uh, be a good translator, understand the business. When you are with business, speak their lingo, be they should feel that you're part of them, so they should be more open and like have that open conversation with you as you are a next person sitting to them, and they bring all that knowledge and share it that with technical team so they can interpret it into more data and technical solution point of view. Do we need data? Do we need dashboard? What type of metrics we need, right? And same time understand all the complexity of machine learning and then convert it to tell to the business. I have experimented sometime is getting data scientists present the models and talk about the models. It works, but sometimes it doesn't work as well because it gets too technical and then sometimes the business lose track of it or sometimes they lose trust. So you have to manage that balance as well where the data scientists talk about the technical thing good enough, but then you overlay that with more business understanding. So that's fun. Another thing is, again, data product management specifically, it's not product management 100%, right? And there is lots of good material available on product management, lots of podcasts, lots of newsletter, lots of posts on how product management work. And I think majority of them could be on B2C, where you can do lots of A/B tests on how users are behaving. You have larger user base, right? Even you go B2B, there are lots of other products available in the market which you can learn from or transferable learning from other products. Not necessarily we have that reach of a data set externally for data product management. So you have to be very calculated on all the decisions you take. Because if you're building a dashboard as a data product, right, you might have like 5 or 10 people max going to use it. You can't experiment, like you can't create a 2 whole different dashboard and try to see which one, which are top, right? So you have to be calculated. Can I try just one different metrics with them? Or can I just wireframe it and then discuss with them in a meeting rather than putting my efforts in building the dashboard? So all those decisions is really helps if you start thinking from that point of view, how you are bridging the gap, because ultimately it's all return on investment. So using the all the resources you have from both the team to bringing out the best out of both of them to give the maximum return on investment for the business.
Yeah, that's very well said, Sagar. I agree with you. It's almost always like the communication and going back to like being, I like how you said it's fun because it's exciting to see like, hey, what can I learn from you? What can I learn from you? And how can I bridge both of your learning and create a story? That's what the key thing, a product. I think that's where it comes down to the basics or foundations of product management. Product management is identifying the problem, building the solution, and telling that story, crafting that narrative as to why this is the right solution for this problem. And that's what we actually data product management is about. Um,
Yeah, I think that's one of the skill which like everyone should develop if they are working in data product management is that data storytelling, right? I think we still like I have seen lots of people still struggle with that, right? Majority of time we go to a meeting and we like very proudly say our model is 92% accurate. But that's not a story business want to listen. They want to listen if because you're 95% accurate, what impact you're bringing to my life, right? Same way, like if Netflix say that my recommendation engine give you 85% accurate movies which you will watch, no one cares about that 85% number. They want to see like my recommendation engine gives you recommend the movie which you love based on your historical movies you have seen, right? That gives you more connection. That gives you more like more feeling about, okay, I'm going to use it because it's something for me rather than it's just some third technical thing.
yeah, yeah, that's where you're getting traction from the user. User wants to use your product. You see their action in the form of business impact, right? Yeah, that definitely makes sense. That's a very good example. I also want to know, like, I have you faced this scenario? Like, is data product management different with different domains, or how do you see this? Like, is it same because it all comes down to data platform and crux of data, irrespective of domains?
And well, I think that's another good question. I think last year I wrote LinkedIn post on this as well. That is data product management transferable skill or is it more domain specific? Because I also have that question in my mind because I started my career in banking and finance. Then I moved into utilities and now I'm kind of managing different industries. But I personally feel it's more transferable skill. As I said, like having domain knowledge for sure helps because that gives you that additional edge while dealing with the business. But I think it's more about how you can bridge that gap, right? It's again coming back to communication, how you can be more efficient in delivering the message in both the ways, right? So if you have domain expertise, that well, that gives you that additional edge. But I think it will be easily applicable to any industry. What do you think on that? I think that's a really interesting question.
Yes, yeah. See, I have also been in different domains like supply chain, virtual assistant, retail, and in so many different domains, and now in marketing. I agree with you. It's more transferable. Uh, it all comes down to because we are product managers, it's more transferable. That's where I see, and I feel like it opens up, brings you that fresh perspective, because if you're not biased because of domain knowledge, that you are in a better place to challenge the status quo. Like, let's say you're from banking. If you tell me one that this works in this way, I'm not from banking. I would definitely be like, hey, why does credits work in this way, or why doesn't let's say approvals, for a particular loan process, or why doesn't this work in this way? So in that, when such kind of diverse minds who are not from the domains meet, you often, that's where the real innovation happens, because you're like, yeah, let's take a step back and think, why are we doing what we are doing? There might be inherent good reason. It might as well just be figuring that inherent good reason, or it might just be like, no, this all doesn't make sense, let's do it the other way, right? So I think that's what I see. One of the things that I keep telling folks who want to move into product management and who feel that they're limiting because of domain knowledge, I just encourage them to go, because it's okay not to have a domain knowledge. You learn, ask the right questions is the key, and build that narrative is the key. Yeah.
No, that's really good point. I think that something which I use as well, the point you mentioned about bringing the learning from other industries, right? So, sorry. In current role, right, I work with different utilities industry from energy, water, gas, or say transport, right? So if I'm working in say gas industry and I'm trying to see if I can identify leakage in the gas pipe, right? So I can bring some innovation, some data solution on that. But then I can also apply same to water as well, right? So I can bring that learning or that solution to other industries as well. So I think that sort of thinking really helps to build that knowledge or kind of start asking question. In that industry, we do something like this way. Why can't we try this? And that gives you that additional, at least a chain of thoughts, which could bring to a new innovation or new solution for that industry. That was a good point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. Um, if you were to give your younger self tips on what would you say, or the reason I'm asking is more often than not, um, who are entering to the field, they do not, I think, still do not have a lot of good resource on data product management, especially from real life, as in examples from things in action. Like you shared so many examples from your work, and how do you think, what are some of the challenges and all those aspects. That richness is still missing. It's in my opinion. So, what would you say? Like, if you were to give them insights, and this is a big important skill, or here is how I would approach it today.
That's a good one. So I think the basic thing, what I would say is start asking questions, right? So at least when we are new into the career or new into the role, we tend to adopt or accept things as they are rather than asking questions. I think that's one of the big kind of a skill that you need to develop, because product management is all about asking right questions, right? That all those questions gives you answer of actual what is the actual problem. That gives you answer what exactly the value this is bringing. That gives you answer that is it already built, will it be adopted, all those things. So, and that's something you can start practicing on your current role as well. You don't need to be product manager to start doing that. If you are an analyst building a report, start asking why you want me to build a report. If someone wants to change your dashboard, add a new metrics, why you want that new metrics, how often you are going to use it, which all people are going to use it, all those things. So that helps a lot. Another thing, if you want to get into data product management, I would say learn a bit about like a foundation of data science and machine learning. You don't need to be expert. You don't need to know all the models, but you need to know good enough that you understand the discussions what technical team have it, because product management role is more of a facilitator rather than doing something your own, right? So if there is a technical blocker and you are in that meeting and you're trying to bring everyone on the same page, you should know good enough what is procedure, what is recall as basic as that, and what is the name of different models, what are the tools and technology my data engineering using, what are the tools and technology my visualization guys are using. All the basic you should know, right? And that really helps. So that's something I would start learning. I learned actual data science a bit late in my career, but I think if I would have learned it at the start, I could have applied lots of things in my earlier roles as well. Another thing I would say that data storytelling, what we touch about, I think that's also very important. Start talking about more business impact and value your solution is bringing. Stop talking about how fancy my dashboard is, what color combination I'm using, how many reports I'm generating, or how accurate my model. Those things are important. I'm not saying they are not important, but give top it up with the business value on that. Another thing I could say is maybe start saying no. I think that is also very much important, because once you get into the role, you start getting ideas from all the direction. You start getting pushed from up and down and left and right. So you need to stand your ground. It's not like just being like a rude and saying no. You have to justify it with your own data, with your own like judgment why you are saying something no to someone, right? There are lots of situations where your CEO is pushing you to add a new feature or build a app because I think right now it's happening a lot. The top management coming saying, okay, add Gen AI into this. You have to mm, like do your homework, do your research, and then go back to them saying that, okay, to add Gen AI feature, we need XYZ things or all that thing. I think with all those things, you are in the good shape. I think last thing I will say on this particular one is don't wait for title to be data product manager, right? I believe right now there will be like still 60 to 70% of people who don't have the title, which are already data product manager because they're applying the mindset, or which could apply the data product mindset, but they're still not sure if that's something for them. Right. So don't wait for title. Start using it because I like on the smaller level, it's all about how you can make your solution reusable, scalable, adaptable, right? If you start thinking all these small things, it helps on your job role itself. So I think that's the main thing. Don't wait for title, just start acting.
That's very well. I think that applies to literally any. I would just say to any field, anything, and that I learned. Especially the key things that struck to me from what you said was knowing some basics with whether it is data science or the tooling. What do they do? Why do they fit in a particular space? And what is their functionality? And sort of if I were, coming to practicing that mindset of if I were to solve this kind of solution, what tools would I use? What kind of data would I use? Coming to that kind of understanding and that kind of mental rigor helps a lot on the job. So then you bring those frameworks to tell, here is where this idea will work, here is where I think this won't work. It also helps you tell no to certain things with conviction. So I agree 100%. And lastly, to even say that, yes, do whether you get the title or not, just think what is the best way you can accomplish a given job. And, act and do it in that fashion, almost helps you do the job without having the titles, right? Yeah. That very well said, Sagar. Um, Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share to our listeners? Because I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I learned so much. It was very great for me to meet a fellow data product leader to understand, like, hey, how did you think about it? So many of these things I just kept thinking in my own mind, listening another person talk. It was fantastic for me. I'm sure it is great to our listeners. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say?
No, yeah. So I also enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for that. Just last thing I will say on the wrapping up is I think data product management as a community, it's still very niche and small, right? So I think start using that community more, right? Reach out on LinkedIn, add more people on your LinkedIn, try to make connection, attend meetups in your cities or in your country, wherever they are happening. I think that's the only way we can grow because everyone, every organization, every data product management is at different level in their journey of the like maturing their data products, right? There are because the technology is also maturing in that rapid pace. So the more you learn from your peers, the more from their mistake, from their success, even some transferable skill, what we can bring from them, some use cases, some ideas, that helps a lot. So I would say use the community. That's my last message.
That's fantastic. I agree with you. Using the community, and that's been one of my themes and reason to do this is build that community so that we can help more people feel that there is resources that they can use and learn from. Yeah. Lastly, if our listeners want to find you, what is the best way they can find and reach you at Sagar?
Best way to reach me at is on LinkedIn. So you can just search Sagar Nikam and just feel free to send me a connection request or send me a message. I'm happy to connect with the fellow members.
That's fantastic, Sagar. And I would love to thank you again. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing all these valuable insights for our listeners.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you got some great actionable insights out of this episode. We're so excited to dig deeper into data product management and its many facets. If you want to engage more with the show, you can follow us on LinkedIn and check out Soda's website at soda.io for more related content around product management in data. And if you are a practitioner bringing product management practices to data and want to potentially be a guest, please check the show notes for a link to apply. As always, we strongly encourage people from underrepresented groups in tech to apply. Much as I'm a handsome devil, we don't want all our guests only looking like me. So again, let's get excited for more digging into data product management in action.